Coxie, did you, feels like not the first time this year you guys left some goals out there tonight?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Some opportunities and some missed opportunities all the way through the game, really. I sort of said to the players, did we deserve to win? Probably not. The opportunities where Port created early, especially in the first half, put us on the back foot. And, but the other side of that, to be really proud of the boys, the way they fought it out to give himself an opportunity and fall short.
How do you diagnose then the problem, the execution problem, not just in front of goals, but just around the ground? Guys just don't seem to be getting it right.
And I think that was probably one of the lowest efficiency games we've had. I'm talking by foot. We still went at 44% inside 50 to their 38, so we created opportunities, just the ability to finish off your work. As long as we've all been around is the most important thing in footy.
We've had issues with the ground ball discrepancy up until today, and won that by quite a lot this year, but I think only one goal from sort of stoppage situations. Is how do you go about getting more off all of that?
Yeah, that's also, you're exactly right. Like our contested ball numbers, we were plus 46, which is a huge discrepancy. But our ability to be able to score from turnover, we kicked 8-9 to their 7-4. So previously we've been efficient at scoring from stoppage and just not from turnover. So, a lot of that, and one of the metrics we look really closely at is loose ball gets. The ability to get from contest to contest is really important, and we did that. It was one of our biggest differentials we've had in a while, but we didn't get bang for buck for that. And to Port's credit, they didn't allow us to.
It looked like they were jumping handball lanes and trying to restrict you. And Ken mentioned you were using by hand a bit more. Is that something that you've been toying with, or you might go back to a bit more direct by foot? Ideal. We don't want to be solely one method when we get the ball, because it depends where you get it. Do you get it from live play, intercept, free kick, and what area of the ground? So one thing that we want to make sure that we do is we want to have multiple avenues to goal or to be able to score. And to Port's credit, they stopped our uncontested marks. We probably overhandballed because we didn't absorb, and it was a scramble for a little bit longer than we would have liked. Whether you miss them or stay involved in that process, probably allowed, especially the second, they probably got away from us a little bit too much there, and also fueled their pressure. Was it the tempo thing too? Because they dominated, well, as much as you dominated by ground, they dominated by air.
Yep.
Was it like the pressure on you guys to find those clear alleys and transition it from inside to out?
Yeah, it was, and early, we didn't absorb their heat well enough. Plain and simply, they were better and stronger and cleaner around the ball than us. So that's an area we've got to work on. We'll continue to do that, but it shows when you do get it right how damaging, and you can end up playing the footy in your front half, but if you don't get up to the standard, well then you get burnt the other way, and that's what Port were really efficient at.
You had like 4 or 5 different key position forward combos. Will was up there, Isaac had a stint. Aaron came on at the end, 4 inside 50 marks in the first 3 quarters, 5 in the last. Is that last look going to be one that you toy with in the weeks coming forward, or is Logan's return going to change things?
Yeah, not sure yet. And that's one thing. We do have a young forward line. When you're talking Hanley, Corey Warner, Cleary, obviously Will and Hayden McLean are the experienced ones, but, we've got to make sure Braden Campbell, we've got to put time into them. And we need to actually educate them as much as we possibly can of what smart half-backs do, what dangerous intercepting defenders do. So, that's our role, is to make sure that we're trying to fast-track that as quickly as we possibly can. Because we need, if we can, have 61 inside 50s, we need to make sure we're more potent than that.
Coxie, just on Tommy Mack, obviously he had a struggle in the first half and made the decision to swap him in. Joel, can you just talk us through that, and do you think that's probably Tom's best position is back, and that's what we'll probably see for the majority of the future as well, or is it still something you're going to toy with?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Tommy, by his own admission, would say tonight wasn't a great night. And that's one thing that, when Logan wasn't ready and Joel had his injury, we had to make sure that we provided 2 against probably 2 of the better intercepting defenders in Radigalia and Aaliyah. So, it didn't work. happy to change it and try and find different avenues, whether it's ahead of the ball or behind the ball. We try and give them a little bit of time to get into the game and do what they can, but at some stage a change-up doesn't hurt anyone.
And we saw a bit of an incident with Ali and a fan. I'm not sure how much of it you've seen, but can you give us any perspective from the Swans' perspective of what happened there?
There's a statement that will come out shortly. I've been briefed. Obviously, Tom spoke to Aaliyah after the game. Tom Harley, our CEO. Anything from fans, members, supporters to players or anyone involved in footy, we don't condone. I think that's one thing that I stand firm on, and so do the club. The club's spoken to the venue, also to Port Adelaide, and then we'll assess that from there. So, come and enjoy the footy, support, cheer, but leave it at that.
We've spoken in previous weeks about James Jordan and praised his ability to know when to run off the man and when to defend. How are you feeling about the rest of the mix of the defenders and their understanding of when to do those two things?
Yeah, that's the balance
Sorry,
they have. No, mids or defenders?
Both. Midfielders.
Both, yeah. And that's one thing that you want to make sure that you're really strong at. You want to be a really strong two-way football team. To be able to attack, but also set yourself up in those transition moments when you are attacking, you can still defend behind the ball. And that's the balance you got to get right. So, even when Nick did some of those runs, we still want to make sure that we have shape or, some support behind the ball, and also Nick to get back and support the defence as well. So, we don't want to just be a one-way team in any way, shape or form. It's trying to get that balance right.
It seemed like in the first half, both teams tried to defend the corridor very hard. Yep. And it seemed like you guys were going more and more direct and taking more risk. Is that something you want to see going forward for the Swans to find those avenues to goal? I know Errol's missing and finding another way.
I think there's times when you can test and use the corridor and try and open the corridor up, but if Port use it, you don't force it.
Yeah.
So that's probably one thing I want to do. I want to make clear to our players, and in Port, they're the number one D50 to corridor team in the comp. So they got a couple of goals early. We sort of knew that. And to the boys' credit, they had 29 front half turnovers. So the ability to be able to stop that, they went at 15% rebound 50 to inside 50. There's other ways we need to try and get the result.
Dean, did the players have anything to say about the turf tonight? We saw quite a few players from both sides slipping. Obviously, it looked a bit different because of the Bocelli concert. But any concerns from the playing group?
No, they didn't mention anything. I didn't speak to them at all about that.
Dean, one of the positives from the afternoon was Aaron Francis coming on for the last quarter cameo. He hasn't been able to settle at either end in his time with the Swans. Could you see him getting a longer-term opportunity up forward, seeing what he can do there?
I think he's probably warranted an opportunity to play again. I think the thing with Aaron, and to his credit, he come back fit in the pre-season. He's always been an emergency for most weeks this year, and I tell him on a Wednesday or a Thursday that he's going to be an emergency again, and he just goes, well, I'm just going to keep working. When I get my opportunity, I'll make sure I'm available and I'm ready for it. I think that's what you want from any player, is their ability to perform at the level underneath, and when their opportunity comes, it's funny that they just play the same way they have been at whatever spot that they play, and his versatility is really important for the team.
And for Logan McDonald, he's had 6 kicks and 1 goal yesterday in the VFL. Does that sort of give you a sense that maybe he needs another run in the twos to build up his fitness, game fitness or whatever it might be before you recall him, especially when Aaron's made that sort of impact today?
Yeah, that's something we'll have to really have a close look at. I think one thing that you can't underestimate is how hard the game is, and when you miss a large chunk of footy to get your form back, there's not too many players that I've seen over my time in footy to be able to miss a massive amount of training but also match play and come back in as if they haven't left. So, Logan's now had a couple of games and a big training program, and it'll be a discussion what we decide.
How much of an impact are disposals and goals to a key position forward these days? I saw Joel up early. He was just trying to bring it down to deck for your smalls to work off. Is it a balance when you're looking at the form of a big compared to, the raw output, or is the goal still the most important thing for you?
No, the competing part and getting the ball to ground. So, and we say, if a player takes 2 or 3 contested marks in a game, it's a pretty good game, but difference between not losing them or at least halving them is really important, because you want to get the ball to ground. You want to be dangerous in the air and at ground level. And, so the forwards are aware that it's not just about their contested marks they take, it's about how many times the opposition take it on us and we don't get an opportunity to get inside 50 and score from that. So they're aware of it, they're young, they're still learning, where they're inconsistent. So, that's something that we train.
And it's, I guess, yeah. There you go.
No, just a couple more in question.
Okay. I was just going to say, how important is it to tell players what their actual goals are before they get into a game? Because there'll be some sad players after this that, some of them have done their jobs, but their disposal count might not be high. They haven't kicked a lot of goals. How important is it to debrief on them?
Yeah, we don't focus about outcome in relation to individual performances. And, one thing that we try and do is get a really strong perspective from the player and line coach and coach about what we value, and it's not just about that. So they're aware at the start of the year of what role they play, what makes up that role, and then how we hold them accountable to that, and themselves as well. So, they're aware. We'll talk through it, go through the vision with them and debrief and get them to reflect.
Any other injury concerns, Dean? I know Lewis, I look like he cleared his HIA, but anything else out of that game?
Nah, just players cramping, or that's it.
All good? Thank you, guys.